Good evening, YouTube. Xfile 2708 back again with another edition of the weekly watches. As I've mentioned to a couple of people today, this is actually take two for this video. I recorded this afternoon a half an hour weekly watches episode, only to play it back afterwards and find out the fucking mic was muted. I was gutted. So the phone back on charge. Hopefully the microphones are working fine on this one, and we can get into this week's or last week's weekly watches. So without further ado, guys, let's start with first watch of the week. Last week was Lamb from 2021. This was the Mubi Blu-ray that I'd heard a couple of people in the community speak about previously. Said it was all kinds of weird and bizarre, messed up. So ticked all the boxes for me. So I thought, right, I'll pick it up and give it a watch. So this is a film from 2021, and my review for this one. Well, this one really was all kinds of odd. I went into this one completely blind, only hearing from people that it was a decent watch, although very weird. And yes, without going into any detail or spoilers, that is exactly what this movie was. The initial big reveal, just after half an hour, led me into the next hour, just captivated and equally shaking my head, trying to understand what the hell I was watching. Without any spoilers at all, it's really difficult to impress on you guys just how weird and bizarre a movie this one is. Oddly, it says on the front of the box that it's something along the lines of destined to be a cult horror classic. But for me, this didn't have or didn't come across as to what I would class as a horror. It was just a really weird movie that was more, I don't know, like a folklore tale. Like a fairy tale-esque sort of movie. So it didn't really have horror elements as such, unless you say, you know, horror elements can be just really bizarre things that, you know, happen during the movie. I won't say any more, apart from the fact that I really did enjoy it. That half an hour, or the reveal after half an hour, was one of the most bizarre what the fuck moments I have had in my movie watching history. Honestly, go into this one completely blind if you haven't seen it before, guys. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The end, again, was out of the blue for me. It wasn't something, it wasn't an ending that I was expecting to the movie. So yeah, it really did deliver on being weird, bizarre, unpredictable, surprising. So, you know, overall, a really good 3.75 out of 5 for me. Finishing off the review there, looks stunning in its Icelandic location. The cinematography on it, like I say, with it all being set in Iceland, it did look absolutely stunning. And even in the frequent silences, you're just sat captivated to what's going on and why. And then, as I mentioned before, the ending itself just multiplies those what the fuck moments further. So, yeah, definitely give this one a go, guys. I'm glad it's one that I've watched and got in the collection, and it will be one that I revisit from time to time. So that was the first movie of the week. And then we went on to The Golden Glove from 2019. Now, this is one that had been mentioned on a couple of the Facebook groups that I'm on. People had spoken about it, after watching it, saying how dark and depressing, how brutal, how harrowing it was. So again, ticked all the boxes for me. Now, I haven't got this on physical at the moment. I will add it into the collection at some point soon. But I actually watched it on Tubi. So if you've got access to Tubi, I know you need to be in America, I think, to access Tubi. But if you know, there's ways around that. But yeah, it is free to watch on Tubi with adverts. So my review for this one, guys. First time watching this one today, and its reputation is very much justified. This movie tells the story of a real-life German serial killer in the 70s. Dark, gritty, brutal, unnerving are just a few words to describe this movie, and for once we're actually delivered a serial killer movie that pulls no punches. That, for me, obviously, for other people, they will find that really uncomfortable and unsettling. But I was just impressed, if you like, that we were actually given a movie that was based on a real-life serial killer, and it packed no punches whatsoever. It showed the things that went on. It didn't do them off camera. It went there and more. And for me, when you're doing a movie about a serial killer, you need to show it warts and all. And that's exactly what this movie did. I'm sure this movie will offend those that oddly get upset with movies that show brutal killings, sexual assault, body dismemberment, abuse, etc. But I'm sorry, this is a movie about a serial killer, so it's not a Sunday afternoon Disney movie. And again, I shouldn't really, make apologies. At the end of the day, if you want family-friendly, cheery movies, you know where to go. If you're watching a movie about a real-life serial killer, expect to see that sort of thing that is very unsettling, because funnily enough, serial killing and being a murderer, not that I know any specifically, it's not unicorns and rainbows, is it? So, continuing the review, definitely a film that delivers on the story it is wanting to tell, and like I say, packs no punches. A solid 3.75 out of 5 from me, and well worth a watch if you can stomach this kind of storytelling and its realism. So, yeah, one that I really enjoyed. Well, if you can say enjoyed, I liked it for the story that it told, for it being honest in its depiction as to what went on, how it showed what went on. It was basically how a serial killer movie should be made. So from me, that ticked all the boxes. And like I say, a solid 3.75 out of 5. Next up, we went on to Mean Creek from 2004. Now, I'm sorry, this is a movie that a lot of you guys here in the community had sung its praises. Several of you guys, I think, or I recall, picking it up, speaking about it on your recent watches and being really impressed with it. So it was one that I added into the collection. I gave it a first time watch last week, but I was underwhelmed. Obviously, everybody's entitled to their opinion. Different people get different things out of a movie. But for me, my review reads, decent watch, but running at under an hour and a half. I was left feeling as though they'd skirted through any particular detail and felt underwhelmed as the credits rolled. The bones of a very good film, but if they'd given us an extra half an hour, then the incident itself and the aftermath could have been addressed better and being a much more intense second half of the film. Frustratingly, more a teen drama than a horror thriller. So, I get certain people prefer the dramas and that sort of movie, and they're not as heavy into the horrors as perhaps myself and some of the others in the community. But for me, this one really did have the potential to be a really good film. I won't go into detail as to what actually happens, because obviously there's going to be people out there that haven't seen this film as yet. But what I will say is the incident itself that happens to the bully, I thought they could have made a lot more intense and unnerving than it actually was. And then the aftermath, like I say, of the incident, where they have to confront what has happened, and it's progressed by the authorities. Again, I feel as though it kind of got to a very early point with them acknowledging what happened, and then the movie finished. So it didn't feel as though we were left with seeing what the consequences of their actions were. Whether that makes sense to you guys, let me know in the comments. Those of you that have seen it, obviously a lot of you got a lot more from this particular film than I did. I did rate it a 3 out of 5. If they'd have gone into more detail, then I think it could have pushed towards a 4. Now, I did speak to my good friend Tim over at Tim's Film Waffle, and Tim has put me on to a film very similar to this one, but he said is very brutal and unnerving. So I have got that movie on the way. So watch this space in the next couple of weeks. Again, once I've watched it, I'll review it here on the Weekly Watches video. So there we go, guys. That was Mean Creek from 2004. We then carried on our a disaster movie kick. Recently, I've watched Airport from 1970. And last year, for the first time, I watched Poseidon Adventure. Thoroughly enjoyed both of those films. Really good. This was one that had been on my radar when I was searching out other disaster movies from the 70s. And thankfully, this one didn't disappoint. So, my review for this one. Another star-studded cast disaster movie from the 70s. This one all about a seismic earthquake that hits LA. Character builds for the first 50 minutes, so it does run quite a long time, this one. Just over 2 hours. When the earthquake finally hits properly, it hits with devastation. This is done using some practical effects, some CGI and some model-based effects by the looks of it. Either way, done really well and well acted throughout, especially the drunk that remains seated at the bar during drinking his shots whilst devastation ensues around him and throughout the city. That did make me laugh. If you look, if you have seen this film before, you'll know exactly what I mean by the drunk that sits in the corner of the bar continuously taking shots whilst it's all happening. Looks wise, he reminded me of the dad from Happy Days. If you have seen it, let me know in the comments if you thought the same thing. But yeah, whilst the city was falling to its knees with I can't remember, a 7 point something on the Richter scale, he just sat drinking shot after shot, and it did have its humorous elements sprinkled throughout, which made it really good. So overall, a classic disaster movie, and one that I'll look forward to rewatching from time to time. And solid 3.5 out of 5 from me. Right, we then, oh my life, we then went to the worst watch of the week. And if I'm perfectly honest, I think this is probably my worst watch of the year so far. This movie was fucking horrendous. It's Bad Day from 2008, starring Donna Eyre and Claire Goose. Now, I believe both of those were ladies back in the 90s and 2000s that were classed as like lads, mags, ladies, whatever you want to call them. So pretty ladies that I think they did, if I remember rightly, Donna Eyre was an actress on Biker Grove, I think it was, maybe. And Claire Goose, I think, was an actress that was maybe in the likes of Casualty, etc. But my God, this film sucked balls big time. Frustrating and shaky camera work. Pin sharp, one scene, then partway through changes angles and is noticeably grainy. Scenes where she's being a cab driver are clearly a fake car, with scenery being played on a green screen and the car being nudged up and down to con us into thinking it's real. Frustratingly lazy. And what's with the British detective driving around old London in a black Pontiac Knight Rider style car? Why? Just why? Everything about this movie sucked. It was appalling. Clearly super low budget with a poor script, poorly acted, poor camera work. Not one I will be rewatching or recommending. Literally, I gave this a 1 out of 5 because towards the end there was an okay approaching watchable fight scene between Claire Goose and Donna Eyre. Apart from that, this movie had absolutely nothing to it whatsoever. Now, what I will show you, just to back that up as well, guys, if you look next to the title there, this film came out in 2008. So if I click on the overview of the film, since 2008, there has been 22 reviews for this film. Normally, you'd expect thousands. 22 reviews. And if I scroll down them, there you go. The ratings on the right-hand side. So, half a star. Sam, but not Sammy G's World of Cinema. Sam starts his "Who set fire to your tampon?" Yes, that is actually a line in this film. Again, that little bit made me chuckle. But my God, the rest of it was painful. 1 star, 1 star, half a star, 1 star, 1 star, 2 stars, pushing the boat out there from Matt, 1.5. Graham from Scotland was clearly the producer, director, or he had some sort of shares in it. But again, everybody else, 1 star, 1 star, and so on. Absolutely appalling. Even if you like So Bad They're Good movies, guys, you will get nothing from this film whatsoever. It was atrocious. Right. After that, I then had a first time watch. Again, another film that had been recommended on one of my Facebook groups as something really hard hitting and depressing. And it was a film starring Ray Winstone from 1997 called Nil by Mouth. And my review for this one: dark, gritty, and super hard hitting. This one, depicting family life in suburban London, surrounded by and existing through alcohol and drug abuse. Outstanding performances from both Ray Winstone and Kathy Burke. Now, I think I've only ever seen Kathy Burke in the likes of Kevin and Perry. Obviously, a comedic actress. But in this film, she plays a battered, tortured wife absolutely superbly. To say this is hard hitting, guys, this film, it's an understatement. Again, it won't be for everybody, but if you can appreciate a good, well-made film and the performances that are in it, you will get a lot from this one. Certainly an uncomfortable watch throughout, as Ray Winstone battles his demons and picks verbal and physical fights with anyone and everyone the more vodka he downs. And Kathy Burke, the emotionally and physically abused wife. This movie certainly won't be for everyone, but for me, the 2 hours flew by, and I'd have loved to have seen maybe an extra half an hour further in Ray's battles and maybe a more brutal encounter with Billy. Now, I won't spoil who Billy is or why I'd have liked to have seen a more brutal encounter with him. But I was enthralled throughout the 2 hours of this film. And when the credits rolled, I was like, shit, I really expected that we'd see what happened with regards to Billy. I'll leave it at that, guys. I gave it a solid 3.75 out of 5. I watched the UK DVD for it. I'm not too sure. I think it might have either had a BFI or a Criterion release. Not 100% sure. Pretty certain it has, because I added it to my watch list afterwards. So it is a film that I will go back to. It's very well made, very hard hitting, but if you can appreciate that sort of filmmaking and the really good story that sits alongside it, then you will get a lot out of Nil by Mouth. And then the last two, no review on this one, guys. This is the legendary Goldfinger, so one of the earlier James Bond movies in the franchise. This is the third in the franchise from 1964, so we started off initially with Dr. No, and then went to From Russia with Love, and then this third one is Goldfinger in 1964. So I'm working my way through the franchise. I haven't put a review here because I'm assuming pretty much anybody that's into action films as such, you'll have seen the James Bond films multiple times over the years, so I don't need to go into detail about the film itself. But what I will say, obviously, this particular film gave us the initial introduction of that legendary James Bond car, the Aston Martin DB5. So that was the really sleek silver number that came with the passenger ejector seats, the inbuilt rocket, the rear oil slicks, the sides that come out of the tyres to shred other cars' tyres, etc. Probably the most iconic James Bond vehicle alongside the Lotus Esprit, in my personal opinion. This movie, obviously, Goldfinger as the main villain, but it also introduced us to his sidekick or his bodyguard, Oddjob, who, if you'll recall, was the smartly dressed dude in the suit with the bowler hat, which was razor sharp, that he could use as a weapon. And the film also brought us the lovely Honor Blackman as Pussy Galore. So, absolutely brilliant film, probably one of my favourite from the Sean Connery era, and I rated that one a 3.5 out of 5. And then to finish the week last night, guys, I watched the sequel to the original Poltergeist. So I watched Poltergeist 2, The Other Side, from 1986. So, as you can see from my review, first time re-watching this one in a few years, so I think it was actually 4 years since I last saw this sequel. And after watching it last night, I actually bumped it up half a star, so it was sat on my letterbox at 2.5 out of 5. But when I sat and thought about it, I thought 2.5 means it's average. And there's a lot of films that I've rated over the years just to 2.5 that are bang average. And for me, after watching this last night, it's definitely not an average sequel. It's higher than that. It's a decent sequel. So yeah, decent sequel to the original, with, for me, probably one of the creepiest characters in Reverend Kane. Now, I was talking to, obviously, the guys in the Lords of Darkness group about this, talking to my good friend Lisa over at Lisa Loves, and we all agreed just how creepy and unnerving Reverend Kane was in this particular film. For me, growing up, I watched horror after horror, the likes of Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers, all of the other, bad characters in horror movies, the ones that scared and creeped a lot of people out. But for me, Reverend Kane in Poltergeist 2 was always the creepiest and most unnerving for me personally in my horror watches. Now, obviously, he's introduced in the film. He's singing his song when he meets Carol Ann for the first time. I think it's in like the shopping area where she's out and about with her mum and gets lost. He then makes another appearance later on in the film where it's tipping it down with rain. He's singing that same creepy song again. And he obviously goes up to the front door and you see him looking through the glass window of the door, having a conversation with them. And it is creepy as hell. Now, I know, sadly, he was that gaunt and unnerving looking. He was actually suffering with cancer at the time of doing the film, but he wanted to go ahead and do the film. And sadly, with what happened, it enhanced the look of his character. And like I say, for me personally, one of the creepiest characters in my horror viewings over the years, from growing up as a kid through still to present day. Now, the only part of this film I'm still not a fan of is how Carol Ann is brought back at the end of the film. So it's almost done in like a dreamlike sequence with CGI and fantasy, and that's never my thing. Don't get me wrong, the rest of the film thoroughly enjoyed. Obviously, with bumping it up to a 3 out of 5 anyway. Lots of jumpy moments, lots of creepy moments, lots of unnerving moments where, the Carol Ann's screaming, the mum's screaming. It is intense scene after intense scene. But for me, the ending just slightly lets it down. If the ending would have been better, I'd have even been tempted to push it up to a 3.5. But as it is for this one, overall, a really good sequel and a solid 3 out of 5 from me. So there we go, guys. That's my take two. So hopefully the microphone has worked perfectly on this one. And I'm not going to go for a hat trick of re-recording tonight. So please let me know in the comments any of those films you've seen. You know, like I say, if you're a fan of Mean Creek, you know, let me know our differences of opinion. Always nice to have that that interaction with you guys. You know, have you seen the likes of Nil by Mouth? Such a powerful, well done film. And again, the Golden Glove as well. All kinds of unnerving and disturbing, but a really well told story and made how a serial killer film should be made. So there we go, guys. That's my watches for last week, all caught up with. So as always, please remember to like, comment and subscribe and all that good stuff. And I'll be back later on in the week with another video. Bye for now, guys.